town you never heard of. Hey everybody, welcome to the Common Folk Podcast with Ben, Morgan, and Andy.
Welcome back to Common Folk.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
What's going on today?
It's just a perfect summer day in Nebraska.
Is it perfect?
It is.
What's perfect for you?
I was driving out here, and I was just looking around, and honestly, Morgan,
Yeah.
everything. The visual.
You were looking in the mirror, and you're like, oh my God,
yeah, that's
so
what it was.
perfect.
Yeah. No. I was driving up an old, white rock dirt road, gravel road.
Okay.
And this is my favorite time where the corn's developed about 7 foot tall, has a little bit of tassel. So you got that vibrant green, you got the brownish, yellowish tassel top, and that bleeds right into a big, bright blue sky with those huge, vibrant white clouds billowing, going. I don't know. It's just.
God, you should write a novel.
It's
It
a lot
sounds so descriptive.
Yeah, think about it. It's a lot to take in, and it's just. I think it's good for the soul. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like I see that in front of me, and I love it. I just absolutely love it.
I know what you're talking about. I feel like that in the mornings when I can get out and walk.
It's quiet.
It's quiet. There's like a little bit of crisp, a little bit of dew.
Yeah.
Just very calm.
It's hard to put it. It's hard to put your finger on it, but it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
You love it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Ben, do you ever get those vibes? Oh, that's right. He sleeps until like 10 o'clock.
He misses it.
I'm kidding. He doesn't.
I like the nice cool mornings.
You like to sleep in.
Of course I do.
But I feel like most people, when they get older, don't like to sleep in.
Right. They go the other way.
And he likes to still do it. I think he'll be 70 years old still wanting
But
to
I
sleep in.
can't sleep in like
You used to like noon back in the day.
Yeah, I mean now it's like if it's 9, if I wake up and it's around 9ish on the weekend, I'm like I got to get up.
Right. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you feel like you're missing the day.
Yeah, and I really don't want to, but I know I need to. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's no shame in that. I think even Tom Brady was saying if I could sleep in till noon, I would. You know?
Really?
Oh yeah, he's one of those. He's kind of turned into like a sleep guru. He sells like $2,000 pajamas that help you sleep. And
stop!
All sorts of stuff that's part of his TB12
Barf.
health, whatever.
Okay, that's too much.
Yeah. Well,
Make you
I don't
sleep?
know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess I'll look into it. But
Worked for him.
I'm a big believer in how healthy you are when you sleep a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
there you go. You're doing it for your health. See his longevity.
Yeah.
Doing it for you and the family, Morgan.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I like
You're
that.
funny.
I don't have that option anymore because.
You got littles.
Oh my God! Like
They're up at what, 5 a.m.?
I swear to God, they're terrorists. They
You call them
they try to sleep
terrorists
in.
and you call them feral.
Well, they try to sleep in during the school year when I'm trying to, rip them out of bed at 7 a.m. And then, here comes my Saturday that both Ashley and I have off. No volleyball camps, no nothing. And 5:30, no kidding, 5:30 in the morning, I have two daughters kicking in our door, jumping on the bed.
Oh, no.
Oh my God!
Even if you put them to bed late.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Just like the dogs, you try and run them or walk them before
Yeah.
bedtime, so they get a good night's sleep.
just like the dog.
Just like the dog.
You'll miss it someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
I don't want to
true.
wish my life away, but yeah.
Yeah.
I got woken up this morning from someone slamming the microwave, making breakfast, and, so then they're teenagers and they're doing their own thing. They're still waking you up. So I don't know if it gets any different.
It just
They're just not
evolves.
jumping on you.
Yeah, it just evolves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, what are we talking about, guys?
Today we are talking about we've touched on this in past episodes, like here and there, a couple random things, couple random comments, things that fit in with other topics we were talking about. But the overall topic for today surrounds youth sports, and for me, what I want to talk about is what youth sports have become over the last, I'm going to say 20 to 30 years, probably, because we were even involved in it a little bit.
Yep.
And the perspective from small town America and from bigger-ish town America and what the differences are. Good and bad. There's both.
Yeah.
But I'll say a little bit of a spoiler alert that overall, I've got a problem with it.
just overall, you have a problem with youth sports in the current state? Is
In
that
its
what you're saying?
current state.
Well, but
yeah.
I like that we have a perspective of, because we have a wide range of children and we've moved different places and they've been in small town and they've been in big town. We've lived in different states. You know what I mean? So there's a different perspective here.
Yeah,
So,
you
and
guys
then Andy's the sports guru, so he's got that take on it. Yeah.
And I'm along lines with the small town, but I get it. I got a lot of friends that, played in Class A, Nebraska.
And you experienced it when you were a kid. I mean, you were in a very small town.
And I guess a perspective that I could bring to it, when I played football in college, at an NAIA level, some low level. Like if you just really wanted to play, you could probably find a spot, to be honest. But the majority of those kids were Class A, a lot of Class B, and then a fair amount of, kids my age that were Class C or D or whatever. So, it was interesting to see the different mindsets and, how the Class A kids, kind of, I don't know how they carried themselves compared to the kids on Class C or D level.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So.
What I'll start with is just some numbers here from projectplay.org. First of all, it says youth ages 6 to 17, and this was around 21 was when they pulled these numbers. 50.7% of them said that they either participated on a sports team or took sports lessons after school or on the weekends. That's a lot lower than I thought it would have been. Almost exactly 50% of our youth between 6 and 17. I don't know what you guys would have thought, but I would have thought there was a whole lot more than that.
Yeah, you're just saying they do an extracurricular sporting activity.
Yep, they're on it. They identify as either being on a team or they take lessons. And then it said the Department of Health and Human Services had a long-term goal of getting over 63% by 2030, so they're pushing it. And then when you look into the individual sports themselves, and I'll just go with.
Can I step in?
Yeah,
here?
Go ahead.
Does that include like Legion baseball? Would I have to say yes to that if I played Legion baseball? Because
I would think so. Yeah.
But that's during the summer, and
Right.
that wouldn't interfere with
that's
school.
not school year.
Yeah.
No, and this was just flat out. Are you on a team,
Like in general,
or do you have anybody like kind of professionally teaching you?
See, and we only had 2 or 3, and I'm going back to Legion baseball, 2 or 3 practices that were during the school year, because we didn't start practices till, a month or so before the season started.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So there was some one of the things that we're going to talk about is select sports. And according to this list, and I'll go up to, they got it split up into 2 different age groups, but I'll go to the 13 to 17. Participation in select sports, and this is from 2019 to 2022. So looking at all of those different years and comparing them to each other, the most participated was basketball. And then it goes to, looks like baseball, and then tennis is right on baseball's heels. And then golf.
Good for golf.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. The lowest being on this list, wrestling, which is interesting because, man, we hear a lot about wrestling.
Yeah, and I thought soccer would have been higher, even though it's not the biggest thing around here.
For sure.
Yeah.
Soccer is right, would have been next after tennis.
And I can't see. Do I see cheerleading? Is that even?
This doesn't. Yes, it does show cheerleading. Cheerleading is about a third of what soccer is.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So some interesting numbers there.
Yeah, a little surprised
Excuse
that
me.
tennis is so high too.
Yeah,
because
me
that's
too.
kind of hoity-toity. That's,
And
yeah.
I don't
and
hear
golf,
I don't hear
feel
a ton
like
about
so
tennis.
But, yeah, tennis.
And looking at the comparisons from 19 to 22, tennis itself is up 25% in participation.
I
so
swear that's from pickleball.
It
Could be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very well
For
could
reals.
be. Yeah.
I mean, we could do a whole podcast on pickleball.
I heard pickleball's like putting
So
tennis under
good.
attack, though. It's like
Yeah.
It's gonna be a sport. Like it's literally gonna take tennis out. Probably.
I know I saw some article. I didn't read it. I just thought it was kind of hilarious. It said pickleball is the destruction of tennis. Like, it said
Yeah.
something like that.
I think it probably will be. There is.
leading the way in the change between 19 and 22 is golf, up 49%.
That doesn't surprise me because this would have been about 5 to 7 years ago. The most number one underutilized scholarship amongst all colleges, all levels, was women's golf. Like colleges would have, due to Title IX and all that good stuff, would actually have a surplus of golf scholarships to give to female athletes.
Really?
Yeah, like a university around here, they wouldn't even fill out a team that'd still have scholarship money left over after the season. So so I can see that, you got that supply, you got the demand. It's going to have to, it'll right itself.
Were your parents like mine? They said, you should know how to play tennis and golf. It's a lifetime sport. Haven't you ever heard that? Like, you can play it till you're 90.
Right. Yeah.
Like, think about it. Now, I think it's going to be pickleball. Like,
right.
it's, it's a little bit easier. It's not as much moving, but definitely golf. So,
It is
anyways.
So
what's
just to close that out, I would say like those power sports that we always think about, that like it's like all we ever hear about. Baseball would be one of them, especially this time of year. We're coming off of that. Is down 16%.
Yeah.
Basketball's down 1%, so it's pretty flat. Tackle football's down almost 8%.
Jeez, baseball's down worse than football.
Yeah. Yeah.
Football is getting
they've been swimming is down 33. And wrestling was down 25, so people are getting out of that too. So
I would have thought wrestling would have been growing because you keep hearing about how more women wrestlers are getting into wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, it's coming to a head.
Yeah.
You're trying to fight toxic masculinity, and wrestling's kind of at the top of that. But now you're trying to introduce women and say, but that's great.
Right.
So what is it? What is it? Is
Yeah.
it toxic masculinity, or is it great for women? There's always that there's always that breaking point where
So the men and women, or the boy and girl thing, is interesting too. So they talk about girls sports participation by state. The leading state, North Dakota. The
for
state
girls?
For girls, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
North
Just
Dakota
in sports
has
in
the
general.
highest
Per capita
highest
type.
female population, highest percentage of their population
Doing sports.
of females are playing sports.
Huh.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And then the lowest is
Louisiana.
Nevada.
Jeez. Nevada.
Yep.
Come on, girls.
Nebraska's not in this list, so we're not in the top 10 or the bottom 10.
That's about right.
Now, if you go to largest sports participation gaps by state for boys versus girls, Nebraska has the largest gap.
We do?
68.5% of the players are boys, 54.5% are girls. So we have a 14 percentage point gap. That's the highest in the nation.
And that's saying that girls don't participate?
It's saying that more boys, 14% more boys participate than girls.
And this is
Okay.
competitive, or are we still talking about just sports?
This is just
in
sports
general?
participation.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising because volleyball is so huge here in
Yeah.
Nebraska, and I feel like softball is too. I mean, it is around Omaha,
Yeah.
the greater
Okay.
Omaha area.
And maybe we
You know?
just, in general, have more boys here. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Must be all the corn.
But
It's making boys.
regardless, there's a lot more
Yeah.
boys on football teams, and football is still huge.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And I also feel like Nebraska's a little bit like Texas, where, the nation's saying football's bad, we should get away from it, it's too
Yeah.
violent.
Yeah.
That's where we push the accelerator down.
Yeah.
We're like, no, we like our boys like that.
There's one last number on here that I thought was interesting. It says, so by state, the percentage of youth ages 6 to 17 who played on a team or took lessons, so that's what we were talking about in the beginning, the leading states being over 60% of their youth participate. There's only a handful. Nebraska's one of them. It's right through the Midwest. So Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota. And then you go far northeast, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. So that's the only states that are over 60% participation. A good part of the rest of the Midwest are 50 to 60%. And then the South is all under 50.
Huh.
Yeah, it is kind of surprising.
Yeah, because the South, like the weather, sports, you would
Well,
think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you could spin it
gotta
however,
be, there's
but
got to be so many dynamics. I don't even want to talk on it.
Maybe the populations are a little higher as well in some of those
Yeah.
areas. And so there's less, less playing.
There's
or,
probably
who
a
knows.
family dynamic where
Yeah.
you need a mother and a father working together to get their kids to these type of things. I'd imagine that's a little harder.
Also, I think what would be a fair statement would be, in general, income level.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and that's one of the things that we're going to get into here, talking about youth sports, is that that is a barrier to entry.
It is
the cost to get into some of these things.
And I've heard that that's one of baseball's biggest downfalls, or that's really stymieing the growth of it, is how expensive it is. And I just can't buy it. I just can't. I don't want to. And
You don't believe that that's true.
right. I mean, it's
but
more.
have you
it's
looked
more.
into it?
It's more expensive than soccer. I'll
Okay.
give it that. Like soccer, you just throw a freaking ball out there, right? And just how many kids are on a team or on the field there, Ben?
11.
11 versus 11.
Yep.
So there, you're good to go, right?
Yeah, there's like not much equipment you're saying involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Baseball, you need a glove. Your catcher needs all these pads.
Well,
you
and
need
that's
bats, you need
another thing about
helmets.
today's sports is,
Yeah.
okay, so let's get into it. You get out there and you look at these fields, and every single kid, and we're just coming off of baseball.
Well,
Yeah.
So every single kid in the dugout has got a big-ass bag. He's got 2 bats sticking out of it, or she does.
Yeah.
Each one of those bats is conservatively a couple $100.
That's a nice estimate.
One of the kids on our rec team broke a bat a couple of weeks ago, and it was a $400 bat. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's great.
They've got their nice glove.
Sure.
They've got their, obviously, their uniform that they need, whatever goes into that, the cleats. They've got now their sliding mitts.
I hate those. But
So stupid.
I mean,
Ben
it's
says
just,
that
it's just
weird,
one
like,
thing after
oh,
another,
is.
right?
Freaking
So
pop.
It is.
all this builds up, and then it becomes one of those things. People bitch about like iPhones, like there's all this pressure for a kid to have an iPhone because all the other kids have it, and blah blah blah. How about the kid that walks out there that doesn't have 2 bats sticking out of his bag, or
Yeah,
doesn't
'cause
have, or doesn't even have 1 bat sticking out
True.
of his bag?
Our kid
Yeah.
didn't have any bats sticking out of
Yeah.
his
So
bag.
Yeah,
that's where a parent actually has to say no
We said no.
and have a little bit, and then also instill that in the kid, like,
And we said no batting gloves. If you want
This-
gloves, you buy it.
this goddamn bat is going to hit the ball just as far,
Yep.
just as well as that bat. I swear to Christ.
We said
Now,
borrow
if
your
you-
friends.
Now, let's say your son was really getting after it, and like he just loved the living shit out of playing baseball and going to batting practice, and like you're looking at twice a day. He's going to the cages. I bet you guys would feel pretty good about dropping $400 on a bat
For sure.
if that was his thing, right?
But like
But
it's
that's
not.
what I'm saying. There's a balance to it. You don't need. You can. I hate that baseball gets this rap where it's so goddamn expensive. You spend as much as you want, and baseball has a lot more options and a lot more ways to do it. There's custom gloves. There's leather gloves made in Kansas. All this shit that you don't need to just go out and enjoy. You guys know the movie Sandlot?
Oh,
Yeah.
one of my favorites.
It's one of the best movies ever made, and it was really relevant because that 4th of July scene, you can't beat that
Yeah,
scene.
for
You
sure.
know,
Yep.
you just feel American. You're like, God damn it. The kids that were happiest playing baseball were the ones playing in the Sandlot. They just had shit gloves. They weren't on a real team, all that stuff.
Dude, they played it out. Remember when the other team came out?
Yeah.
Came and played against them?
Yeah, they beat their ass.
Yeah, and the other team had all the uniforms and had all the gear and the nice bikes and
The nice bats, the new bats
Yeah, right.
that weren't free,
Yeah.
pulled out of
Yeah.
a dumpster, whatever. Yeah.
Hey, but let me tell you this though, because
Okay.
Joel decided to play rec baseball 2 games into the season. He went and saw his buddies play, and he's like, "I think I want to do this." I'm like, "Oh my gosh,
Little
we'll
late.
see if we can do this."
All right.
Email the commissioner, whatever. They need more players. Yes. I got the basic of the basic, almost $300, Andy.
Sure.
He needed a glove.
Yep.
He hadn't played in 3 years. Had to have shoes. Had to have pants.
Yeah.
Had to have socks.
Sure.
And a belt.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't get him a bat, and I didn't get him batting gloves.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of pricey.
and we had a leftover bag, so he didn't
And
have
he
to
had
buy
a leftover
either.
bag, so he's
Yeah.
carrying a blue bag on a maroon team.
Yeah.
Okay?
Love it.
So just so you know, that's damn expensive compared to soccer. When
It
you
is.
get cleats,
Yeah.
shoes, and you don't even need a ball.
You got to make a goddamn
So,
investment in it.
anyways, not saying you're wrong, but that's pretty
So
damn
I
expensive.
have just as sour a taste, if not more so, because our commissioner of our league got caught. What do they call that? Oh God, you hear it in IRS terms. She was funneling money to herself through the
yeah.
league.
Yeah.
Embezzling. She was
Yeah.
embezzling, and I kept saying like, why in the frick do we need to keep buying the same damn T-shirt every year?
Right.
And you you made it 3 sizes too big anyway last year. And I told you, put us back on the red team, and you're like, okay. And then, we didn't get a choice in it. Here comes the forms with new shirts and new hats. This year's hats didn't fit either. Speaking
of jerseys, Joel had the wrong last name. He had to get his buddies.
Oh, nice.
His last name was Caniglia.
That's a great baseball name.
And we had to find a hat in town. They couldn't even make more hats. This
Somebody's
is how
old
small
hat.
town
Yeah.
we
That's
were.
awesome.
He was not even an Evers.
So I didn't have this on my list earlier, but I gotta.
I get it. Baseball's expensive, and there's a barrier. I
Okay.
get it.
No, but to that point, so I gotta be honest, because this reminded me when you were saying that. So trap shooting, that's an event, that's a sport, that's something that the kids are into. It's not super physical, right? But they're doing their thing. Mm-hmm. It was the same kind of idea. So when he first started, it was like, okay, we've got this cheap shotgun.
Yep.
You're going to shoot this. Mm-hmm. We're going to see how you do. We're going to see if you like it. We're going to see if you take to it. We're going to see if you take on the challenge. If you want to be better. Yeah. If you show some work. And then if so, then we'll look at investing in the real deal tools. Yeah. So we did, and that's what he's doing. And now the kid's got a shotgun that costs 5 times more than the nicest shotgun I ever had. Yeah, yeah. And we spent the money.
But he loves it. He does it. He did super great this year.
Cool.
Yeah, that's fine, but that's what everybody would say. People would say that about baseball, like, "Oh yeah, my kid loves it. He's got, we have to buy him the right
so
tools."
are we justifying it?
This is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
This is what I'm saying. So I'm admitting we did it. We did it with trap shooting. I guess in my mind, where I feel a little bit better about it is that purchase and that tool literally is a tool for life.
Yeah, yeah.
He will hand that thing down to his kid or his grandkids, and it will still be as trustworthy as it is today.
Or he'll sell it for the same amount.
And a lot of times those tools, don't want to call it a weapon. It's a tool. They appreciate, like a John Deere 4020. They appreciate.
So that was sidebar, but I just had to say that's what we did. So what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about we've been on both sides of this fence that I'm putting up here that I'm talking about, and that is essentially the select sport atmosphere, the travel sport atmosphere versus the small town, more rec sport atmosphere. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of things I want to point out about that. So I'm going to start talking about the select and travel one because that's what we did first with our youngest daughter. So our oldest daughter. So
one of them.
Yeah, whatever they are. So to kind of paint that picture, and I think a lot of people are going through this because I think this podcast is for those first child families that are running through this stuff, that are experiencing youth sports for the first time and feeling a lot of pressures to do a lot of things.
Sure.
And so I'm going to try to help give you some perspective and think about what you have going on.
All right.
So as we said, our first daughter, she comes out of the gate very young, loving sports. Morgan and I both played our whole life, multiple sports, so it's in the family. And she immediately takes to soccer. Soccer was her thing. She played a couple of different things, but 3-4 years old, that was her thing.
Okay.
So I'm coaching teams. She's coming up, whatever. We get to a point at, 8-9 years old when it's time to have a more professional coach, and then one thing leads to another, and then there's another team, and then, a recruiter or another coach comes up to you and is like, hey, you guys ever thought about doing this and doing that? And oh, okay, yeah, it seems like she likes it, so we do the next thing, and then we start moving for work to different parts of the country. So we go to the new state, we go to the new town. I'm there before the family, so I get out and I'm hunting around, I'm hunting teams, and I'm trying to figure out, what's the best club, what's going to have the best opportunity. I'm watching them play, what seems to have the best coaching, those kinds of things. Okay. So then we try to get her entered into that. She has to go try out. She makes some of them, whatever, and that continues on and continues on and continues on. Next thing we know, it's full on. I mean, we're traveling every weekend. Yeah. We're at one point going 45 minutes each way for practice.
Wow.
We're doing all this stuff, spending all the money. Money that realistically we don't have. Yeah. We're just making it happen, just because it's like our kid loves this so much and we're going to help her with it. So, we keep doing it, and then she gets to an age where it's college recruits are coming around, you're playing on the top level teams, you're traveling all over the nation, you're in a development league, playing on
Under
three
the
different
U.S. women's soccer.
playing on three different teams,
Yeah.
all the stuff. And then she continues to take it even more seriously. So she runs with the ball, so to speak, starts making her own videos, starts contacting coaches, doing all these kinds of things. And one thing leads to another, and she gets a great college scholarship.
Yeah, D1.
Yeah. So, and then in the end, so all of that time and that investment monetarily ended up making sense because of how college dues ended up laying out. But really, in the end, I mean, we probably spent all of that college money in her coming up
Before
in soccer
college.
anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's nice that it didn't have to be spent twice. But then for her, she got into college and played college ball, and she liked it, but she didn't love it. I mean, it became a job.
Yeah.
And she continued to do it and did fairly well, and then graduated college, and that was that. So that was that story.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
Well, and I feel that way with a lot of professionals, and people really tear down NBA guys and NFL guys that don't love the team like some hardcore fans. And it's like, well, maybe they don't, it's a job to them.
Yeah.
They don't view it like you guys. They didn't grow up crazy ass Husker fans, just because your dad was and your granddad was, and the man cave's nothing but go Big Red, and I think that might have been what happened to your daughter there.
Yeah, probably.
I think it just got to be too much.
She got burned out a little bit.
Oh, for sure. And I think
but-
that was always our fear is burnout. And she just
Yeah.
never had that. Like from 6 years old,
And-
she
and-
said
and
she wanted
lucky-
to play at college.
Lucky
and
for us, not to mention, there wasn't any major injuries. Like she had some injuries that were
took her out
that
for
were scary.
seasons. Yeah,
But
concussions.
she didn't end up with anything that was like going to be debilitating for the rest
Yeah.
of her life,
Right.
which a lot of those kids do when they play at that level.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we did get lucky in that sense. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy because then the other perspective or the other side is too, right? She was playing so competitively, she couldn't even play for her high school team.
Yeah, I don't like
Right?
that.
She was
I
able
really
to.
don't
No,
like that.
we didn't either. Like it was 1 year she
Yeah.
was able to throw down on it, but then her club team went so hardcore. There was no time for
Yeah.
you to play high school ball.
Yeah, because you're always traveling.
They were traveling so much to point where the parents didn't even go travel anymore. The coaches just took the team. I mean, we're talking. It was ridiculous.
Was
And
that
it-
like on an AAU circuit type of deal?
It was under the USA developmental team, like USA Olympic.
And U.S. soccer,
crazy.
like the U.S. soccer organization, decided that, and they weren't wrong, that the high school level play was so subpar that it was actually taking players backwards.
And I would have to agree with that a little bit. The 1 year
Sure.
she did it, she did get some really bad habits. It's a lot of it's such a hard, I don't know, even when we talk about it, it's so hard. How do you decide what to do? But
That plays into what the next part of
Yes.
this conversation is. So, we mentioned, not playing high school and what all do you miss of that? And the social, the biggest thing I was worried about was the social interaction. You're not there with your friends. Like if she would have played on the high school team, she would have been top 2 players on the team, if not top 1.
Right.
Would have been the high school all-star, would have had all the awards.
absolutely.
Would have got all the
And a
recognition.
big Class A school. But,
all that fun stuff. But she had to miss.
still did 1 year. She's still on the Walk of Fame at her big high school, graduating class of 700 people.
Well, I guess maybe
you know what I
earlier you
mean?
didn't
Yeah.
tell the whole story. So she played.
That's what I said. She played 1 year.
Yeah, she played for a little bit, but she didn't play her senior year.
No.
But either way, so that happened. So now, and when we were doing that, as I said, we were moving around for work. So work was putting us into major metropolitan areas. It was big areas. I mean, that's what you had. You needed to find the clubs.
Yeah.
And you're going to play for one of the clubs. That's how it works.
Well, around here for girls in volleyball, you have to get on a club team too. That's what I heard. Forget it. You can't be a 7-year-old girl and decide, oh, now I'm going to pick up volleyball. Nope, you're already left behind.
So, and I think there's a balance there, and to that point, is that how and when do you decide that you can do both? So now, fast forward, years ago, we moved back home, and we go out, down to this small town, and we leave our second daughter in the big school so she can finish because she's halfway through high school. So she travels. And then our son, we enroll him in a small town school. So then we start getting a taste of how small town sports work. And it was one of the things that I was most excited about because I had an inkling that, okay, when I was a kid, I pretty much had to play one sport. And that's what a lot of these select sports do to you.
Right, yeah.
Is that this is what you have to focus on and this is what you have to do, just like our oldest daughter. And even our second daughter, I mean, once she kind of figured out what she wanted to do, she focused on cheerleading, and that was another super competitive thing that we traveled around with all the time as well. Morgan did most of that. But I was excited for the opportunity for one of our kids to be able to play anything and everything all year round.
Yeah.
And I had this vision in my mind that it's going to be these group of boys that are going to play each sport. You know, they're going to go from football to basketball to baseball to whatever, to trap shooting, to all the different things,
they're
right?
going to be buddies, and they're going to be buddies throughout middle school and high school.
Yeah.
And come to find out, that's what it was. And then you start figuring out the other schools that we're playing, you know, and it's all the other small town schools in the area, and and that's all the same kids, and they're going from sport to sport to sport. And it's super cool. It's fun. It's not as crazy competitive, but it still is competitive.
Oh, yeah, it is.
We have way more small town fans. You got people showing up that don't even have kids on the team.
Yeah.
Just because they're like, football's tonight, you know, or baseball's tonight, or whatever.
Friday Night Lights.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have a lot of that, like, community camaraderie. But what we've seen is that slowly that urge to whatever the next best thing is, and to take them to more prestigious levels and challenge them more and do this and that starts creeping in.
Yeah.
And people start leaving.
And that I really don't think that's anything new, because even in where I'm from, that happened to us, where our band of buddies, we'll say, got broke up when it mattered most, when we were in middle school and parents wanted bigger and better opportunities, and it broke up the band, you know, and it hurt us sports-wise, hurt us big time.
Well, I think that's where we're at, like where I think it starts hurting the local team sports. But if we didn't have that perspective with our oldest, could we have been subject to
that totally
that could be us.
But you also got to admit that the payoff was there. She got her scholarship, she got to fill out her career, and she also found out, dodging a couple bullets, not getting injured and stuff, that it wasn't for her.
Yes,
you
and
know
I
what mean?
think this is where I've come, and I don't know if you would agree with this. I don't know how you even say this. How do you know when your kid is actually that good? Like our oldest was that good, and we gave her helped her with those abilities, and she actually showed us that.
It's hard not to wear the rosy glasses.
We've had a kid that's talked, that wants to be that level, that has seen their older sister be like that, but actually doesn't fully display it, but kind of wants to do more of it, more of all the activities. And I feel like that, then it always falls back to the parents. Is the parents that are like, "Oh, my kid's super good. They got to go to another team." Why don't you just step back and let your kid do the leading? Like, if your kid is actually that freaking awesome, and continues to be that awesome at a lower level, then maybe you look somewhere else. It shouldn't be like a season and they're minimum, they're batting in the middle of the pack and they're actually not that good, but you think, oh, they're going to be so good in a different school or in a different club. Any club's going to take your money, right? We've said this. How many club sports teams have team 4, team 5?
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people get a false
They want
sense.
your money.
And the big thing when I was growing up was camps, out of season camps, whether it's basketball or baseball camps, and all these damn camps made you feel so good about yourself, and they left the parents thinking like, "Oh my God, he's got some talent. He better go to the next camp.
Good.
Better go to the next camp."
$200 here, $400 later.
Well, these were all more than that, and that was back, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. So I got a better perspective, not on the AAU type of circuit, but on the camp side of it. But throw that in the mix, because those camps aren't going anywhere. There's more camps now than ever, and there's satellite camps now for colleges and all sorts of stuff. It's just, and that, to Morgan, to what you're saying, I just think it's on parents to take a step back.
Agree.
And
That's what I'm
there's-
saying. Let
and
your
there's
kid do the talking and the leading.
There's no right way to do it, I guess.
No.
Or to know. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like we're not getting our son involved in enough stuff, but you know, I don't know, if he doesn't show interest in it,
Right.
Right.
you know, like why, and I don't want to force it on him. I didn't play tackle football until 7th grade, you know, and then I ended up getting a scholarship. So I don't feel like we're lost or it's too late or any of that stuff. And we did go to a camp, you know, and hey, you better send your kid to camp. All these other kids are going to a camp. And I would say we left more frustrated afterwards because, you know, the attention was paid to other kids or this or that, older kids. And, you know, it just wasn't what we expected.
For what you had to pay.
Yeah, and also, you know, lose a day fishing or lose a day on the lake to go there and pay this money and get this goddamn T-shirt that we already have that's too big, and then get there and see that, you know, for an hour, the last hour of practice, he's not even with the group doing drills. He's over there farting around. Like, what?
Oh God!
It's like, what do we? You know, so like, there's always those cases, but that's probably a little too drilled down. But what I was getting at with your point, there's no right or wrong answer.
I don't think there's a right or wrong.
And I think I think it's on parents and just having a feel for it and just being aware.
But I think my point is, and I know Ben, you were the one that kind of brought up this topic, but I'm feeling a little bit passionate about it. Where parents, like we say, are the problem. Parents are the ones that think their kid is all that in a bag of freaking chips.
Yeah, take
and
the
they're
rosy
actually
glasses.
not.
Yeah.
They're actually probably not. You just want them to be, and you're putting them in a position that you think is going to better them, but really
It's for you.
it's for you, and
Yeah.
what you should do is probably just keep them on that damn rec team and watch them just slowly progress and quit trying to just always up the ante.
Well, sure, there's a lot of parents vicariously living through their kids and wanting more.
It's
you know?
sad.
And that's something that that an adult has to admit, like to figure out, is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
You know, it's harder for me with our son than with the girls because, you know, him being a boy, so I see the sports that I played, and that's what I want him to do.
Sure.
And I recognized early on, like I played soccer hardcore all the way into adulthood, and I wanted him to play soccer.
Yeah.
It was going to be fun, and I could just tell he was not down with it. And I'm like, okay.
He
Step
might have
back
got burned
and
out
let-
from his older sister. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Who knows? And then you played baseball, and you kind of want him to do that.
Well, and he went and played baseball one season, and he didn't really love it. Didn't have an awesome experience, and he was like, "I don't want to play baseball anymore."
Well,
and I was the same thing. I loved baseball, and I was like,
Yeah.
"This freaking sucks."
Yeah.
And then a few years later, for whatever reason, I never talked to him about it again. He just got the fire again. He's like, "I want to play," you know. So it just kind of
But
does
I
its
also
thing.
think we could out ourselves and also say when he played 3 years ago, he made a select team that was kind of local select, but they had a billion games. By the end of the
Yeah.
season, he wanted to shoot himself.
Yeah.
It was too much. So as parents, hindsight, I think, maybe you would disagree, we shouldn't have done that. We should have put him in even a more YMCA league.
Or just your local.
Exactly, the local
Well, I think,
Junior
I
Legion.
think there's a whole nother story there, and then maybe some other folks experience this if it's worth mentioning. But we didn't know, so we were new
We
to
didn't.
town.
But
Yeah.
We
But
had met
looking
some
back-
families, and these families were like, "Hey, we're putting a baseball team together. Why doesn't he play?" And we're like, "Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's
I
do
don't
it."
really know what any of the other options are." Like, "Oh, that
it
sounds
wasn't
fun."
actually that expensive. For
Yeah, and it
being
was
select.
cool. I mean, it was
Yeah.
a good experience, whatever. But the point is the
It was too much for him.
Yeah, and so to go back to the small town thing, and you know, maybe this is just wishful thinking, but I've just like had this picture in my mind of each one of these small towns. You know, they got their teams, they got their boys, they got their girls, whatever.
Yeah.
And everybody comes together and they do that, and it's what we raised against what you raised.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's a town competition.
Like our
is,
blood
yeah.
against your blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's all in good fun, but you know, hey, maybe one year, like, hey,
Yep.
we got the bad boys over here this year,
Yep,
you
we
know,
got-
and then next year it's like, oh shit, well,
Yep.
you know, that one moved on. And
Jimmy John's kids here now.
You beat the hell out of us when we had 3 sophomores starting. Now those now those boys are seniors. Look out.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. And that's how it usually goes. It goes in waves.
Just things like that. So, and what's been discouraging and what we've seen with all of the pressures of the select sports and to be better and to travel and go bigger and badder and fancier uniforms and all the things is that we're having, we touched on this earlier and you said it happened to you, we're having families move their players from the team to neighboring towns that have select teams, and they think that that's what's better, and maybe that is what's better for them, but it sucks to see what's happening to the small town teams, because if they were still in the small town teams, the teams that we would be able to put together would be so much stronger and so much more fun, and everybody would have more fun.
I think the kids would have, for the most part, have more fun, and that winning is fun, though.
It is.
And it is fun to be part of a winning team.
For sure.
And one of the young guys that we were talking about beforehand, I don't want to call him out, but I'm sure he had a lot of fun that 1 year playing with that elite basketball team. You know, that even if he was riding the bench, he thought he was a little bit better than he was, so he transferred.
Yeah.
And you got fed your medicine. You figure out you're not the big fish anymore. But I bet that was a lot of fun.
But I think that's also a good point is people think that, like, if you're smaller and you think you want to go bigger, is your kid actually that much better when you put them up against Class A kids? More than likely not. Like, I'm just being real, people.
Well,
okay?
yeah, but
I mean, they could be, but more than likely your kid, I'm just saying, because we have a couple of kids, we don't have just one kid.
Yeah.
Your kid is probably not that amazing up against these other kids that have 700 in a graduating class. You go try to make that basketball team that's only taking 10 kids. Good freaking luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, those kids out at Millard North, man, that program's rolling pretty good right now, basketball-wise. And I was just looking at their freshman team and then their JV team and then, like, their junior JV team. It's like, holy shit. Like, every one of those
stacked.
So elite.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It's like,
yeah.
So, but then do you think as parents now, and people are like, oh, they want to go play in college, no one's going to get recruited. I remember thinking that when we were in a Class A school with our kids, no one's getting recruited in Class B, C schools. They actually are now since we've seen it.
Now is more than ever.
So do you not know that?
Now more than ever with different tools like Huddle, video, like what your daughter started to do, making videos of herself. You can really throw that circuit stuff out the window if you want to, and because the kid's talent and his drive will show through, and the game film's there, and there's still a case to be made. Oh yeah, but you're doing that against Class C1, talent or level versus Class A, but you're still going to get somebody to give you a shot.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, there's even more opportunities now. Let's take the second. Here's a good segue here. Great case study. A young man by the name of Baylor Shireman. Love this guy. He just got drafted in the first round of the NBA draft a couple weeks ago. Boston Celtics drafted him. Young man out of Aurora, Nebraska. And he was probably, if he wasn't the best, he was the second best quarterback I'd ever covered broadcasting.
Really?
I mean, he is so good, so tall. He could move on his feet, really strong arm, just unbelievable. All the tools were there, but he was also probably the best basketball player I ever covered, So, but coming out, since he was Class C1, Class B for a couple of years, then they transferred I got shoved down to Class C1. No one would give him a shot. So his only D1 offer in basketball was South Dakota State, dominated that league for 2 years, then entered the transfer portal, collected a big fat check from Creighton University here in Omaha, played in the Big East, did really well 2 years in a row. March Madness, he did really good in March. And then he was able to get himself in a position where he got drafted in the second kid outside of Omaha or Lincoln to ever get drafted in the NBA
That's
first round.
That's crazy.
But what my point was, there's a lot of different paths, and it was probably a lot more fun for him. Not at the time, he hated it, but I just heard an interview with him. He really enjoyed his time at South Dakota State, living in Brookings, going through that. There's a lot of kids from Nebraska that were on that team. And then that also allowed him to develop so he could compete in the Big East. He probably wouldn't have been ready coming out of high school to just be thrown right into the Big East and D1 at that level. But going the route he went actually allowed him to grow into his body, work on the skills that he needed to. So, like, it doesn't, I guess my biggest point is it doesn't all have to be right here, right now, got to be on the select team, got to be on that team. If it's going to be, it's going to be. And here's a stat that I always go back to for everybody. Only 2% of any kids out there, and it'll fluctuate a little bit, like to 2.1 down to 1.98.
Yeah, I've seen it. I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
Go pro.
Yep.
So forget it.
Yeah.
I mean, just forget it. Just why not just have fun and focus on the good and the enjoyment, and like you said, buddies, getting your buddies, form a little team there, a clique.
And that's really my point. I mean, exactly everything that you're saying there, and I'm glad you brought up that story about that kid, because we need to realize what is most important in the end. Mm-hmm. Because again, how many of them are going to go on to do this for their job?
Yeah.
Little to none. So all of those other skills.
2 kids in the existence of the NBA that have ever been drafted outside of Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah. All of those other skills that they're building, those experiences that they're having, like what that kid was having, the experiences with your buddies, with your neighbors. We're all on the same team. We travel around. Mm-hmm. We're best buds for life. We're doing this. We're doing that. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's going to last forever.
You better believe it.
Baseball's going to go away. Yeah. Soccer's going to go away. Volleyball's going to go away. It's all going to go away eventually. So you got to think about that. And I was looking up. It's funny that you brought that up because I was looking up those numbers. So it said a little over 7% of high school athletes, about 1 in 13, go on to play a varsity sport in college, and less than 2% of high school athletes go on to play at Division I. So that's 1 in 57. Mm-hmm. I mean, those numbers are so low.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Those numbers are so low.
That's less than, and there's some damn good football teams, Class A, around Omaha and Lincoln, and you're saying less than 1 per team. Or 1 per team, basically.
Yeah, it goes on. Yeah. And don't get me wrong. Like, I hope I'm not coming off, I hope you understand that I think sports are extremely important. Mm-hmm. There are so many lessons learned. It's not about going to Division I. It's not about going to pro. Mm-hmm. The winning, the losing, the shitty coaches, the good coaches, the shitty umpires, the good umpires, referees, officials, all of them, all of that, that's all part of it, the experience. Yeah. The asshole parents in the crowds yelling, the grandparents coming and cheering on, all that. It's all part of the experience, and it's all important. Mm-hmm. It's extremely important. It builds better people, flat out. Yeah. People have to understand what the purpose of this is. Mm-hmm. The purpose of this is not to fucking travel around every other weekend and just string your kid out and miss out on real life stuff.
But
you can't get that back.
And don't play that game that, the kid wants to. Yeah, right. The kid doesn't know what it wants.
No, parents, you should know look better. At yourself. Figure it out.
God, I hate it when even at a very young age, mom or dad will say, like, well, so-and-so wants to go home now, or so-and-so needs this or that now. You're going to let your kid decide? No, I'm at a barbecue right now.
Right.
He can suffer over there in the sandbox and play with some kids over there for another hour or two, however long it takes us to, punch in this 18-pack, whatever.
Yep.
No.
Yeah. Well, they can chill.
You're a parent. You should,
And again, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. We were lucky enough to have one of those 2% that went on to play Division I.
Yeah.
But when I look back on it, if she had just played competitive soccer her whole childhood and played for her high school team, and did all those kinds of things, is she better off today because she played Division I than if she didn't? I can't answer that.
Yeah, and that's a tricky case too, because we just had the Women's World Cup, and you're saying she wasn't really into it, so like man, but
and she and really in the end, like we talked about earlier, she kind of got burned out.
Yeah,
and she's coming back around now.
Well, that's
because
cool.
She's been out of it for a few years, and she's like, I think maybe I want to coach a little bit, or I want to get involved in this or that or whatever. Right. So that's cool. It's still a part of her. It's always going to be a part of her.
Yeah.
But again, like the trade-offs, the good and the bad. I don't.
I know.
There's, like I said, there's no right reason. I just think that there's the pressure isn't as big as it feels for most parents. I truly believe that. Mm-hmm. There's so many different routes, and it's not wrong. And like I said, go back to Baylor Shireman. I think the way things played out for him, it couldn't have worked out any better for his career, for his college experience, any of it.
And I bet
it wasn't the route that he wanted.
I bet.
It wasn't the route
And I
that
bet he
wanted.
wasn't. He was a little bummed. We went and toured that school. It's a nice school, but like,
Damn right it is.
he then went to Creighton. We went to Creighton too and toured that with Elise. But it's like, I bet in his mind he was thinking, I'm way better than South Dakota.
He wanted to play football for the Huskers.
Okay.
And they
but
wanted,
look at him now.
They wanted
How
him
cool.
to be a tight end. Just one of the many things that Nebraska football kind of shot themselves in the foot with.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But
could go on all day.
that's a good story. I like that
could.
with him coming up in Class C. You know, I
Yeah.
think that's great.
yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. For me, the moral of the story is in these youth sports, man, it's like so much of it is getting out of control.
Wouldn't you say just don't force it? And
Don't force it.
And you
yeah.
don't, even with baseball, I admit it's expensive. It's turned into kind of an expensive sport, but you can do it in a way where it doesn't.
You can.
You know,
Mhm.
I mean it. Like,
Yep.
so, but you can easily go the other way. A couple of years ago when we first did it, T-ball. Mom just went to Dick's Sporting Goods and got him everything all new, and it was like $250.
Mhm.
T-ball.
Mhm.
T-ball. You know, the shoes, the
Yep.
bat, the
Yep.
blah,
Yes.
blah, blah.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to do that, you know.
And what I'm saying is like for the rec ball like that to be enjoyable and to be exciting, the community has to be all in. All the parents in that age group and everything, everyone's got to be all in. Like, just go let them be, let them play, let them have fun, let them do their thing, let them build up their team. It's just so frustrating to see what so many people are doing.
You're giving me nostalgia right now where we had a pretty damn good Pony League, Little League, and then up through Legion baseball teams. And it was a county team. So it was all, you know, we competed like hell in football and basketball. And then we came together to form this pretty darn good baseball team.
Oh, I bet. That was good.
And when those big-ass old crazy lights, you know, on the baseball field would light up, they had that buzz to them.
Yeah.
You know? But you had a whole county come out and cheer us on, and it was just so much damn fun, you know. And it brought people together, and we had cookouts, and you know, we never would have got along with those boys, you know. And I don't think the parents would have got along as well either.
Yeah.
Like it was just so many cool things about that, and it was just like you said, just allowing your local town team, to just play together.
I mean, I'm literally witnessing it deteriorating in some of these towns, and it's because people think they need to go do bigger and better
and
things.
I think we should say
grass is greener.
But Joel so enjoyed playing baseball.
He loved it.
He loved it.
That's
and
great.
it was so chill to him, low pressure. He would still get a little annoyed if they lost or whatever. He needs to do better, but he's talking about next year and we're going to do this and that. It's like, that is what we love.
Yeah.
This is what it should be.
You can't get a more fair game than baseball. Like, the rules are set up. It is fair.
Well, we were at one of the games, and you know, we had parents yelling, and an elm threw a coach out. Oh my God!
Sure.
Like, are we serious right now?
Hey, for another podcast, but there's a lot more to that story I brought up about me being a bad umpire. I'll round that out.
Okay, yeah,
you know,
I want to hear
later.
this. Right when you called
when you were cheating for your brother.
But you know, it went the other way the first 8 innings.
Right.
So,
Okay.
So I'm sounding the alarm. If you're in small towns, man, focus on it. Build those teams. I mean,
figure out what your kid wants to do. It's probably you.
Let the boys and girls have fun.
Yeah.
Let them have fun.
Yeah, for sure. To close it out, remind folks on the Farm Focused, FOCUSED.com website, you can use code COMMONFOLK, get 20% off. People have used a couple of those. I was looking at it this morning. It's been used a few times. We've got the Watson gloves on there. People can see on the videos on YouTube. Badass gloves. I've given these to a couple of guys, a couple of my buddies to try out because I'm looking for some honest reviews. And they're like, dude, those are the best fitting, nicest gloves I've ever used.
They do
For
feel
real.
nice. They're nice and soft.
Yeah.
Deer skin, right?
And mine got, what happened? I think I left them on the tractor and they got rained on. I mean, they were soaked. And then, you know, when it dries, when leather dries, they get all crispy. And so they were pretty hard. And I'm like, oh my God, man, I ruined my gloves. I took some
Like
leather
boot polish?
leather conditioner, like that I would use on my seat in my truck. Just kind of worked it all in my hands, got them all worked up. Man, they're nicer than they were before the rain.
What?
Like, yeah,
Bounce
I mean,
back. All right.
they're
All
just
right.
they're just nice gloves, man. So 20% off of those with code CommonFolk. 20% off of everything else on the website with code CommonFolk. This is, what is it? We're recording Tuesday. This will be out before the end of the week, right?
Oh, yeah.
So folks still have time to buy any farm focused or stock and rod shirt or hat. That $5 from that's going to Morgan's 50-mile march.
Awesome.
That's going through the
Yeah.
weekend. So
Yeah.
folks will have a couple of days by the time they listen to this.
Should we get Michael Severe back on
that
to talk about
That'd be
fundraiser?
awesome to have it on.
Oh.
Yeah,
think he
especially
would.
before that
I,
kicks off.
I don't know if
Yep.
he's walking this year. I haven't. Maybe he is. I saw him once, but
Yeah.
Huh.
So folks, check it out. Appreciate everybody listening and going on the website.
Yeah.
What else?
Oh, did you mention Soldier Valley
I did
for
not.
spirits?
Why don't you?
I think we should get a custom drink, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Something like
I think we need to
something
just
like
go
the-
get a drink, like
farm
right
focused-
now. Should we leave?
Well, yeah,
and go
we
get
can
a
do
drink?
that. That sounds good to me.
I'm not opposed.
But like the farm focused
guess I'll-
haymaker.
Oh, you
What do you
have a
think of
meeting
that?
tonight.
Yeah.
What about the haymaker? The farm focused haymaker.
That sounds fun.
You know, when
Yeah.
you go to the distillery there in La Vista, Nebraska,
Mm-hmm.
like, whoa, what's that? That's a haymaker. That's our stiffest drinking.
You're only allowed 2 of those.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Hey, might as well.
Yeah, Soldier Valley's a cool group, man. They got some great bourbon. We've got that on the table here as well. Appreciate those guys.
We have the vodka too. We need to get out. That was the
Yep.
third bottle
Coming
we had
off,
talked about.
yeah.
And perfect timing coming off a wonderful 4th of July weekend. Had a lot of
Absolutely.
fun.
Yep,
you
they're
know.
big military veteran supporters.
Yes, they are. So,
I think
Cool.
that's it, boys.
all righty.
All right, well, thanks for listening.
Later.
We'll
All
close
right.
it down.
Peace.